Well, that was an unpleasant break. Hello and welcome back to Microplay? Yeah, Microplay. I'm a dumb, sorry guys. I've been away for so long without recording any videos, and then just when I return with my girlfriend, I get sick and I cannot talk for like 1 week. And now I'm back. How have you been doing? Is the least I can say, really. Anyway, we're back with some Banished. Banished is a very indie game as far as I'm concerned, being developed by Shining Rock Software, which, if you know or may not know, it is composed of basically one developer. One person made all of this game and one person made the soundtrack. This game is awesome. Now, you know that I like Anno, the games where I made some videos of, many videos of. And this game is very similar to Anno in some respect. In some respect it's also similar to No More, yeah, if you remember it, and from that I mean more to like Dwarf Fortress-ish feeling. It is more economic based than most of this kind of genre games that I've played, and it's really fantastic. Now in the background you can see one of my towns that I've built, but for the sake of this video, for this microplay, for this first impression, and I'm gonna continue with a series of this because I love this game. I've played it for 3 days in a row now, and I think I've already spent like 15 or 16 hours into it. That is like over 5 hours average per day. That is really lots for me even. But you know, it's a game that deserves it. It deserves it definitely deserves to be purchased to play and stuff. So go check it out. I'll leave some links down below for the official site, for the Steam site, wherever you wanna buy it, your favorite thing. I'm bad at talking. Anyway, let's get started here, shall we? So there's a bunch of settings. We can name the city, or the town rather. We can number the seed. We can also decide what kind of terrain between valleys and mountains, the size of the terrain, the climate, the disasters, if on or off, and the starting conditions. Now, as you can notice, this is my settings for this town that you see in the background. Reason why I do this is because I wanted to learn, and I think I'm still learning slowly. Like, I managed to reach a town of about 100 villagers quite easily, but you never know, because, like, crops and food that you gather is a bit of a random gamble, so you usually want always to have something more. You want to always have a bit more so that your villagers can survive through a harsh winter, because you never know how your crops are gonna grow. They can suck sometime, and then you're like, oh look, they're all dying one after the other, and you don't want that, so you always want to make something more. What's the right term for that? Surplus. I want to make a surplus. There we go. So let's get started here. Okay, let's name our town. Now, the town in the background is named Muttonsville. As you know, I love my towns. We're gonna name this one something fabulous. Frabjous. Yeah, let's go with that. This is a word in the Jabberwock, by the way. You should read that. It's basically fabulous, joyous, and something else that I remember. DR. Anyway, we're gonna do the gamble of the seeds, and we're gonna go with these settings, and I intend to change villages as we go, or rather, create new villages as we go on and on, because eventually I want to go with the hardest possible settings, so harsh climate, mountainous terrain, as well as disasters on. I suppose disasters are really fun, but I'll still keep them off just in case, to learn, you know. Let's learn, let's be a bit of a baby right now, and let's start with little tiny pitter-pattering steps, and then go into huge leaps of disgraceful natures. Let's go on and see what our seed tells us. Sometimes seeds can be also be a bit tricky, in the form of you don't get what you want, and then you're sad. I mostly want a river close by, because like fish is one of the most reliable sources of food. Even then, sometimes you get more, sometimes you get less. And I also want a lot of forests close by, because that is also a source of food. But what do you know, we got a river, not only a river, also a lake. That doesn't really matter. And we have a bunch of open areas here, a lot of resources. Now basically the gray stone, the big gray stones are rocks, essentially, for stones. For the stone material. The small ones, the darker ones, are iron. And trees are for wood, of course. Now let me see a bit. Yeah, this seems quite okay-ish in general. Like I could reliably build a village here over this area and make some gatherers' huts down here or something like that. From my experience, basically, is the gatherers' huts are better off away. Anyway, we're gonna get started here. Let's get started by queuing up the menus as I like them. You can actually show the HUD or heads-up display the way you like it. You can basically move it around like crazy. I like this. This is basically like the information, the main information tab. It tells you what the villagers need and what resources you have, their health and their happiness. Also tells you the number of villagers. Right now I have 11 adults and 9 children. We should actually pause. You never know. Next up, another thing I like is the event log. This basically tells me everything that happens. As you can see, Armani has become an adult and is working as a laborer. Now, children turn into adults at the age of 10 if they're not schooled. If they're schooled, they become first students, and after they are students, at about age 14 or 15, I believe they become adults, and they can be living alone. I think even students can live alone in a house. But usually you want to saturate your village in a more peaceful way. You don't want to overgrow it, because if you overgrow it, then it's gonna spiral out of control and your villagers are just gonna die. Once it happened to me that the random number generation just decided to not give me any female. And you know, male plus male equals not a lot of reproduction. So yeah. Not saying that female plus female does, but let's not get into that. Let's build some houses. Now I like my villages compact, which is not necessarily a good thing, because fires. Fires is a disaster. I have disaster disabled, so it's not really an issue right now, but anyway, we're gonna build a bunch of houses. Let me see here. That's 4. Let's build one here and one here. I think 5 should be enough for the time being. We're gonna set up a few roads. Essentially, it's best if you have houses close to their working place. Each one has a job, which you can design here. Here you see, professions. Laborer 11, builder 0, farmer 0, herdsman 0, gatherer 0, fisherman 0. We're gonna start off with a couple of builders, let's say 3 builders right now, and the rest can be laborers, and we're gonna also tell the laborers to remove any resource here. No, the structures. We don't want to remove structures. Silly Lauren. We're gonna remove about this size of resources, so we have more space. What else is there to be done? Of course, the minimap. We can open it here, and you can see the world. It's pretty goddamn huge. Like, you know, when you decide a large map, you mean it. It's a large map. It's really big. It's really, really, really big. And no pun is intended, of course, but still. Imagine building a village this size. It would go out of control. Like, you would have... I know that there is an achievement having a village, or rather a town, or rather a city, of 900 inhabitants. How the hell do you even do that? That's impossible. At least for me it is. Anyway, let's get started by setting up the time. I like the timing to be at times 5. Times 1 is really slow. Times 2 is also slow. Sometimes you can go up to times 10. Times 10 being the most. But I want to keep everything in control. So we're gonna play with this and see what happens. The builders should start working on the houses. The material should be brought to the houses. And the houses should be starting to get built. So there is one difference with the Anno series. Once you have the materials, you can just plop down the house and that's it. Here, not so much. You have to actually transport the material, and then the builders have to finish the house. The build tells you basically the percentage or how much hammering they need to be done, they need to do before the house is built, essentially. And that is one house with a bunch of people. You can see there's 2 adults and 3 children. Essentially, yeah, adults, relative adults, 16 and 14, 19 and 11. Jesus Christ. And we have already another adult, so that's good as a start. But before too long, we'll need some food. We have some potatoes at the start, but these guys are greedy and they're just gonna take them all. And they're gonna be like, hey, we're running out of food. Can you give us some food? Please, please, please? So yes, I'll do that. We're gonna build a fisherman's dock, fishing dock here. It's just nicely compact close to the town, so basically those that are going to work here are not gonna live too far away, so that's really clever. We're also gonna make the road, which makes basically transportation of goods and movement of villagers faster, which is pretty much essential, I suppose. Especially in winter time, because they can freeze to death outside. That is where exactly you don't want their working slots to be far away from their homes. Because if they are like living here and they're working like down here, then they're just gonna freeze to death on their way. Of course, there's leather coats and stuff that can protect them, but you know, usually you want to keep them alive. It's nice, it's good habits to keep them alive. Anyway, our builders are finishing up the fishing dock. And then we can assign directly some workers there. There we go. We can designate up to 4 workers here, but we're gonna designate about 3 right now. That should be enough. And before too long, I'm gonna build right away a woodcutter. This essentially provides firewood. Firewood for winter. Basically, people that are... Actually, there's a bunch of people without house, so we should be building one more house, I suppose. 6 houses total, fair enough. Basically, people that live in their houses in the winter will want firewood to keep themselves warm. If they're not warm, they're also dying out of freezing. But right now, you see, this question mark tells me there is no worker. How much firewood do we have? About 50. I suppose we can designate 1 already. We have a bunch of laborers still. And we're gonna supply it to up to 100 limit. So basically, once we have 100 firewood, which is displayed here, they're gonna stop working. I don't know if they do anything else in particular. Maybe they just turn automatically into laborers or something. But I'm not too sure. What else do we need? We need more food. Food is definitely underrated in this game, and I think we should need more. Before we do that, I'm gonna gather these stones and the rocks here. So let's do that. I'm still learning a bit the grips of the menu here. But it's really easy actually. You can use F1, F2, F3, F4, F5, F6, F7, 8, 9 and ESC, I believe, for the menu. And then you use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's quite easy to go with the hotkeys, but you don't really need it. You can play with the mouse just fine. Depends on how you want to play, essentially. Anyway, our laborers should be now clearing out this area, and before that, we should actually designate to build a gatherer's hut. Now, gatherer's hut is a bit of a hazard. Or hazard, rather. Hazard is more like a French way to put it, right? I believe there is heals here, so that is unfortunate. Maybe I should place it like down here. Now, the reason why this is a bit of a hazard is mostly because you want to keep them outside of your town. If they're inside, they will not have any like things to gather. They want to be in a forest to gather effectively. So you want to keep them in a forest, essentially, as far away from town as possible. Same goes with the huntsman's cabin. They want to be also outside of town, but I think they want to be in an open area, or at least that's what I read. Let me see. Now, diagonal roads exist, but they're not the prettiest, so, you know, it's all about the pretties for me. So let's do this. How about that? So this should be connected to a road at least, and it's completely outside of my town, so that's good. It also has every building, every gathering building, or rather food production building, has its area of effect, or rather efficiency area. Essentially, if you build another fisherman dock here, they're not gonna be as productive, they're just gonna share their production. So you want to spread out, of course. We have our stored firewood. We don't have a lot of food, sadly, but that's not a problem. Health is dropping down simply because we don't have a lot of variation in food. Variation in food, herbs and stuff like that help your health to grow. What next? Now, there is not a lot of space here, so we won't like build a huntsman's cabin there. I could in theory build it down here, but I'd rather hold an open area for it. Maybe down here. Or let me see a bit around. It's a bit of a tricky terrain, really, because of all the mountains. You can actually tunnel below the mountains, but not build roads up top. Basically, you can build only on the plains. You cannot build up top mountains, unless it's a mine, of course. Mines can and must be built on mountains. Either way, it's early autumn already. Autumn, rather. 12 adults, 12 children, so they're procreating for the greater good, I guess. And once they become adults, I don't know, my pronunciations and accentuations are bad, guys. Forgive me for that. Anyway, our stockpile is actually full, so we're gonna actually designate another stockpile. It's over here, actually. Actually. The actuallys never disappear, guys. Sorry about that. Alright. And we're gonna actually make a bit... Jesus Christ. Stop it! Stop it! Alright. We're gonna make a road connection there so that the delivery of materials can be faster. And there they go. Look at them go. Storage of 4 log stones and iron near capacity. We have a bunch of fish. We have some hide coats. We have tools. Tools are also a necessity, but not that big of a deal. Not yet, anyway. Eventually we'll have to worry about them, but not the first year of the game. Alright, so... let me think about it now. Now, I'm gonna show you this. I'm not sure if I interpreted it right, but if you go here in the like encyclopedia that is included, there is a lot of writing here. Like, it's really very well detailed, so really good job there. We go to food production, hunting cabin. A hunting cabin can be placed in an open area where wild animals roam. Hunters will search the area around the cabin in search of animals. In addition to providing meat, hunters use the animal hide for leather, which can be turned into clothing by a tailor. Wild animals generally avoid areas of civilization, so it's best to place hunting cabins away from town. Once a hunter kills an animal, they'll return the meat to a leather to a nearest storage barn. And this is our nearest and only storage barn for now. So yeah, essentially in an open area, I suppose? If I understand right, yeah. Oops, sorry, hiccups. But, you know, I can understand wrong. And late autumn brings winter, of course. Winter rises after late autumn, makes sense. Now, also one thing that needs to be mentioned, the years displayed in by this number here are actually determined. The start of the year is early spring. It's not basically early winter like it is in real world, you know, end of December, or if you're in the southern hemisphere, I guess early summer. No, it is actually early spring. That is basically when the statistics reset, because each of these production facilities have a certain statistics. You see, current season fish 846, and that is a lot of fish for a season that is going to last for another like 2 periods or 2 months. Basically, there is 3 periods or 3 months per season. Early, normal, and late. So yeah, it's 12 months, I suppose. So, you know, for 3 more months of production, that is not too bad. Usually I go around 1000, 1050. And this one doesn't have any workers because I'm a ding-dong. I should assign workers, otherwise it won't work, you know. Usually you want workers to work in a building, otherwise the building won't produce any good. Unless you have robots, but that is not the case here. Alright, so are we going to do something with our lives? Probably. Where are we going to do something with our lives? No clue. What I could do is build a tunnel all through these mountains and then have this area around here, which is wide open. We could do that. We could pull that. I think we could do that. The downside is gonna be basically the length of the road. Let me think. Either way, now we should be getting more food through this. You can check here, we get roots, berries, onions, and mushrooms. Now another way to produce food is of course through orchards and farms. You know them right here. Crop fields and orchards. I think it's orchards. I have no clue. And of course also pastures later on. In medium and easy you actually start with seeds. Seeds that you can use to basically farm. Yeah, I guess. And in the hard starting conditions, you don't. And actually, farms are a very reliable and good way, are actually not that reliable, a good way to produce food. It's not very reliable because you never know when the crops are not going to be produced well enough, I suppose. So basically one season you can produce about 1,000 crops, one season you can produce 500. So it's not extremely reliable, but it's a good way to do it. It doesn't cost too many workers, about 3 per farm field. You don't usually want to build too big farm fields, otherwise the workers won't be able to finish before winter comes. Breathe, man, breathe. Usually I go for like 12 times 13 crop fields. That's usually the most I go with. And I believe there is no reason to go with 12 times 13 for orchards, because basically there is a wasted slot there. So you go with 13 times 11. Basically, you know, there is trees every second slot. So 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, instead of having 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, and then have the 12th empty. So yeah, that is basically what I've learned thus far in 15 hours of gameplay. I'm still learning, guys, and it's early spring, by the way, so we're gonna slow this down and see what else we need to build. There are several things we can build. We can build a schoolhouse. This will essentially teach our children to be more productive. Basically, they'll produce more food if they start working after they're schooled. So that's really a useful thing to do, but not year 2 yet. I usually want to saturate a bit the village more, until we have like a certain quantity of production going on, and then after that, basically, I change the system and add the schools. Because usually you have to basically min-max a bit the professions, like you have to change the woodcutter's profession here and there, especially if you have a hunter's hut. And we're not producing a lot of food. I think food is taken once per season, I think, or maybe once per season breaks, or once per month would be more appropriate. So yeah, you know what I've thought about it? I think I'm gonna put the huntman's cabin around here. Sounds about right. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Let's see how this is producing. This is actually producing, well, slowly, because I didn't set the workers quite yet, but they're gonna produce some food, so that's good. Let me see the area of effect of the hunting cabin rather. I don't know if you can actually overlap them efficiently. That's a thing I don't know for sure. But I'm gonna suppose no, you can't. So we're gonna build it here. Here. Someplace. Let's build it here. And let's designate to clear out resources around this area. So this should be okay. And then we can connect it with our road. That's not a problem. That is the least of our concerns, actually. Let's see a bit of our citizens. 15 free. So 2 adults, 1 child is best to saturate. Here you see there is an adult alone. Here you see there is another adult alone. So we can build actually another house and have them basically procreate at the age of 10. Don't even ask. Time here doesn't have the same frequency as real world does. For instance, people age more rapidly than years pass. So 1 year won't make them age 1 year. 1 year will make them age like 3 or 4 times. So they grow faster. So this is not real life. This is not real life. Don't expect real things in a world that is not real Earth, you know? This is a fictional world in a very realistic setting, though. So that's nice. Anyway, we can check how many fish we produced. About 1,200. That's actually a bunch of fish. I like that. Let's see now. We could build something more. I guess sooner or later our tools are gonna get low, but I don't know if we should do that already. What else is there to be done? Herbalist is something I don't seem to find that much use early on. After a while, especially with the disasters on, you want that herbalist hut simply because basically people get sick with disasters on. Without disasters on, people just get stabbed to death. It's normal, don't worry. Don't worry. Tailors also, there is no real use, as well as taverns, there's absolutely no use early on. Mines and quarries, not either. Until you're starting to run out of raw material close to your town, you don't want to build all of these things. Like, usually, maybe in extreme cases, the Forester Lodge is okay as a choice, simply because, you know, you want a wood production so that you have firewood. Actually, I'm gonna increase this firewood limit, because you never know. Reserve of food is low. It's actually a warning when you reach about 200. But for our standards, it's actually not too low. It's not too bad. So what are we gonna build with our lives? School, nah. Hospital, nah. We could actually build a crops field. We have about enough labor. Actually, no, let's not do that, because there is a couple that I'm gonna sign here. Actually, yeah, let's do this, but it's not gonna be effective until next spring, is the thing. So we can actually still build it, but we're not gonna produce anything from it, you know. That's my point. We can build it about over here. There we go. So they're gonna clear this area so that we can then later on place crops or determine the crops. I don't know which seeds we get. They're randomly determined. You cannot know until basically you get to pick. As far as I know anyway. Another way to know which seeds you have and which you're still lacking is to build the town hall. The town hall, once you get about 50 to 60 citizens, is very useful. It always tells you how much food you produce every year, how much food you consume every year. So you basically can keep a quick and solid eye on what the hell is going on in your village, you know? And yeah, the town hall is really good. Census data is very important and tells you also which seeds you're lacking, or rather, which seeds and animals, cattle and stuff, are yet unknown to you. Either way, our laborers should before too long start clearing out this area. Liza became an adult and now is working as a laborer. So this is now gonna work. You can see there is a fair amount of venison and leather being gathered here. But I'm still opening up the area, maybe that's gonna speed up the production. I have no clue. I haven't determined yet whether you have to be in an open area or is it okay to be in a forest just outside of town. I haven't tried yet, I haven't experimented yet. With the gatherer's hut, I've actually experimented with both if you put them straight at the town center. They're not gonna be nearly as effective. The gatherer's hut is gonna be like 1/4 as effective near town than as in a complete forested area. And same with the hunting cabin with diminished return, about half as effective near town. And I guess that the bigger the town is, the less effective it's gonna be, essentially. That would make sense, at least from my standpoint. Anyway, food is still rather low, but we have a bunch of laborers right now. Adults are pouring in, so we're gonna set up more workers here. They're gonna produce better. And we're gonna be happier, hopefully. You can see that we're getting actually quite a bunch of food here. Let's see in the fishing dock how much we're getting. A bunch too. And there is, of course, the workers here. We could, in theory, set up another worker here too. Sure, why not? We can connect to a road so that the food is delivered more rapidly. Why not? Let's do that. Of course, they'll have to clear out the road and then build the road, actually. But it takes a little while. It doesn't take long. Depending on how many laborers you have. I have 5 laborers and 2 builders, which help the laborers when there is nothing to be built. So that's good. So after these trees are chopped down, we are going to determine the crop that we're going to have here. Now, this town is definitely not effective from a standpoint of effectiveness, essentially. But eventually, it's going to be. Maybe. Okay, we have potato and corn. Of course, the gods of potato dictate that we're going to have potatoes, right? No, not that. We're going to set up 3 farmers here. And we have still 2 laborers. They're not going to work until next spring. But for that purpose, I think I'm gonna save the game and I'm gonna reload my bigger town, Muttonsville. Just to show you how a bigger town is managed. Alright, so Muttonsville, there we go. I'm not gonna show you the details of the options menu. There's quite a few graphical settings. As you can see, the graphics of these games are really nice. And there we go. This is a bigger village that I've built. This is the biggest village and most successful village that I have right now. There's a church, which makes happiness. There's 100 people right now in this village, actually. There's a cemetery with 26 dead people. So apparently, Isabel the stonecutter has died of old age. And here is my town hall. Town hall tells me which seeds and livestock I have available. I have sheep, corn, potato, plum, pumpkin. Then I have the graphs, the nomads. Usually, every here and there, nomads will ask if they can enter your village. This can be basically your downfall, accepting nomads from what I've seen. Nomads are bad. Don't accept nomads right away. Here we have our inventory. Every single thing we have in the town. We have 3,000 venison. Holy mother of God. And the production. This is where things start to shine. You can see basically how much you used and how much you produced per year or per season, I suppose, or just per this season. I'm not sure. Currently we have 7,169 food, so that's really good. You can see I have crops filled with pumpkins, potatoes, pumpkins, corn, potatoes, and 2 orchards of plums, which are later on used to make ale of plum. We have several fishermen's hut, 1, 2, and 3. We have several also woodcutters, 1, 2, and then another inactive one here. This is not active. This is basically my trading post. This is where I trade goods and where I bought my sweet potato seeds. Fantastic, delicious potato. Then I have a forester lodge here which gathers wood every year and places saplings so the forest is kept alive. I think I'll have to move this one eventually down there because it's getting a bit close to town. The town started right over here. These were the first houses of the town. And then I have a gatherer's hut, which I already moved. It was here, but then I moved it for purposes because I wanted more farms. And there is another person that died. Kaylin, the laborer. Furthermore, I have a hunting scum in here, which provides a lot of venison actually each year. 720 is not bad. And through the tunnel here, I have my quarry, which is basically a cursed place. Already like 6 people died out in the quarry. I have no idea why. And my mine, which I just recently built and have 3 miners in. It produces iron. I can actually increase this iron limit a bit. There's no real reason, it just determines when people should stop working. The only things that I would really consider limiting is tools being produced at the blacksmith and the firewood. Other than that, there is no real reason to stop production. I guess maybe leather jackets and clothes. I have sheep here, by the way. I suppose that would make sense. Other than that, there is absolutely no reason to limit. Like, I've had to increase my food production limit by 2 times already. It used to be 5,000, then I moved it to 10,000, then I hit already the 10,000 threshold, so I had to move it to 15,000. Eventually I'll have to move it to upwards. As long as you have marketplaces and storage barns, there's not gonna be really an issue with that. It's as simple as that. And I like this town. I like this town a lot, Martinsville. It's a seed that I hold close to my heart, actually. It's a date close to my heart, so... But I won't spoil the seed. If you want a good seed, try and find it yourself. That's what I'm saying to you. Either way. I was actually planning on making a tunnel here and then start production down here in this forest. Probably move, eventually, my production there. Ale is not being produced that fast, but still. And the cemetery is getting filled up, just as I reloaded. 2 people died here. We have 0 laborer, so I'm gonna remove 1 builder here from the laboring. So if anyone dies, basically, he's gonna automatically be designated. The laborer is gonna automatically be designated to that job. That is pretty much all I have to say for this first impression. If you like the game, you can buy it. It's like $20. It's a... You might think it's expensive for such an indie game, but it's not. It's really massive in the scale of how much replayability you have and how much potential this game has. I feel like there isn't a better game right now, recently, in recent memory, out there that manages economy and town building like this one. It's like, simply not. Like, the closest thing I can think of is SimCity, and you know how that turned out to be, right? So yeah, if you liked it, make sure to check the links down below, support the developer, and enjoy it yourself if at all possible, of course. If you like this kind of games. I myself am a sucker for this kind of games. I absolutely adore these games, and I'll play them to death if needed be. Anyway, thanks everyone for watching this first impression, about 35 minutes now. And join me next time, because I'm gonna make a series out of this. I'm gonna make a new town. The Frabjous town was a bit sucky, so let's leave that alone. I was a bit in rush just to explain a lot of things to you. Next time I'll run a few logistics that I've pre-calculated to myself, and we're gonna have a bunch of fun. Anyway, until then, be well. Bye!
This was the Anno gaming, so thanks for watching.